Welcome back to Life with Shan. Today I'm going to talk about The Midnight Club, the show, the book, and everything in between. So I was really interested in watching the show, The Midnight Club, because Mike Flanagan was writing it, and I loved The Haunting of Hill House, which is one of his other shows. It's also based off of a book by Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. And that show, the way it was done was just so well written, everything pieced together perfectly, the acting was great, it was just the right amount of spookiness, and it all wrapped up beautifully. So I recommend that show to you if you haven't watched it yet. I recommend that to almost everyone. I've probably watched that show 3 times. And after watching that show, I then bought the book by Shirley Jackson, and the book was completely different from the show. The book was in the same setting and had the same character names, but the characters were all different than they were in the show. So it was like 2 separate stories. And then Mike Flanagan came out with the show The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I also liked. It was a different type of ghost story, but it was still pretty good for me. So when I saw that he was on the team for The Midnight Club, I knew I had to watch it and I had to read it. So to start, I watched the show first. I know that's a little different, but I thought if it's going to be similar to the book, I should see if I should even add to my TBR by watching the show first and deciding if the story was good. Anyways, The Midnight Club is about kids in hospice, so they're getting ready to die. They're all terminally ill, they're all young, under the age of 19, and some of them meet up at midnight in the hospice center. And at midnight, they toast and they tell ghost stories. And then they form a pact together saying that, okay, whoever passes first, we need to promise to do everything we can to show that, to communicate to the people who are still alive, to show that there is an afterlife of some sort. So they make that pact, and that is in the synopsis of the book and in the synopsis of the show. Now, from here on out, there are going to be spoilers for both the show and the book, along with my review. In regards to the show, it is 10 episodes. It is now on Netflix, and I appreciated the cult aspect. Cults always get me. I'm a sucker for cults in shows and movies. So there was a cult aspect to the show, and there was a good amount of ghosts. You didn't really know what was going on. I did get frustrated at times listening to the stories of the Midnight Club just because I wanted to know what was happening in the hospice center itself. However, that is not in the book. In the book, it is roughly 200 pages. It's a quick read, and it is mostly about the Midnight Club and their stories. There's no cult, there's no Julie Jane like there is in the show. And so basically one of the main differences in the Midnight Club book is that there were 30 people in the hospice center and only 5 of them are in the Midnight Club, where in the show there is a lot. I think there are 8 or so characters that you're introduced to that are patients in the hospice center, and almost all of them are in the Midnight Club. So that's quite a big difference. In the book, you only are introduced to 5. All of their Midnight Club stories are different than in the show, except for Anya's story from the show, where there were 2 Anyas and the devil met her. They all have very similar illnesses in both the book and the show. That was based off of the book. And then Anya passes in the book just as she does in the show, and Sandra gets sent home because she's not terminally ill, just like in the show and in the book. However, one big difference in the book is that they all end up dying, all of them. Where in the show, you're left off with cliffhangers, most of them are still alive, what's going on with the cult, and I was not expecting it to end on a cliffhanger for the show because all of Mike Flanagan's other work on Netflix has been just 1 season, that's it. So when the show finished with such a large cliffhanger about where's Julie Jane, what's going on with the cult, why does the doctor have the time, what is it? You know what I'm talking about, the time thing that you switch over. I'm gonna remember it right after this video, but there you go, I'm having a brain fart. But she has that tattooed on the back of her neck. So you're left with a huge cliffhanger in the show, which I was not anticipating and was a little frustrated with. Where in the book, it's not creepy at all. It's mostly just about life and death and what to expect thereafter. And it's more of like a love story with accepting death and falling in love later on in your own timeline of life. They did a good job with the show. I appreciated what they added. I mean, the show's 10 episodes. I know they had to add stuff because it's only a 200-page book. But it's interesting. It was a very interesting story. I wish the book had more creepiness, and I wish the show wrapped up better, but I'm very hopeful for a season 2. And thank you for watching this episode of Life with Shan, and I hope that if you read and watched The Midnight Club, you'll comment below your thoughts of either one. And enjoy!